But I think if you want to build a business and not a one-time kind of a hobby or experiment, then this is not the right approach. I think if you are looking to build a business in online courses or courses, what I would recommend is to first understand yourself as to what you are passionate about and what is something which you can keep talking about and keep learning yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Hanuj. I am a CEO and co-founder at Miho. Miho basically is a platform to help knowledge entrepreneurs to create, grow, and manage their online businesses. We help any sort of entrepreneurs, any person who has been having certain set of skills to monetize those by creating courses, digital downloads, webinars, and also build your own community on the platform itself. That's what we do. Make It Happen Online is a podcast and initiative by Miho to help knowledge entrepreneurs who are already in the journey or people who are starting willing to get started with it to know the basics and then get started. So having right understanding before you get started is super necessary. And that's where Make It Happen Online podcast will help you to do that. Today in the podcast, we have Niraj Harlalka. He has an extensive background in digital marketing, then getting growing businesses, and now he's also working on a edtech business, which is primarily driven by creating multiple types of career-oriented courses and not just courses. So today we'll be talking about how can you also create a bigger business out of courses. Welcome, Neeraj bhai. I'm glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Anuj, for the invitation. And it's a wonderful initiative you've started. I hope a lot of people get some insights and also looking forward to add some value to this discussion. So thank you for inviting me.
Uh, thanks a lot for being such a great mentor and friend across the journey of Neo as well. And doing this on a very short notice, like we just had one single call and you're like, boss, I'm up for it. And that's something that is what I love the most about you. Uh, coming to the podcast, like we can get started probably by you introducing yourself. You can take 2 to 3 minutes. This is the best time you can tell what you do and also sell your product if that's
Okay.
me.
Yeah, any opportunity is good opportunity for that. So hi folks, I'm Niraj from Eduberance, and Eduberance is an online career assistance platform. We help students from grade 7th to 12th to understand how to make a career selection. Now, the genesis of this actually started close to 12 years back, 12, 14 years back, when I was actually working as an outreach professional and working with a group where we are sending students for MBBS in Philippines. So there's a lot of effort and sweat which went into that, learned a lot of things in that. But one thing I understood that the kind of work we were doing, there was a bias in what we were doing. So we were sending students to Philippines, and some of them we knew were not cut out to become doctors. So that is where the genesis started as to is there a model where this kind of bias can be avoided, or is there a proper way of counseling kids? So after that, the journey took me into like, so I was into education. We built an ERP for education where we looked at the various facets of university, right from admissions to alumni. Then we also looked at the school curriculum. In fact, we were privileged to work with the IB board that time. So not directly the board, but some of the top schools, school ranked third was one of our first clients. And we learned a lot of things about students, about uh, what are the various activities, not just the academics, but thankfully we were exposed to a lot of different facets which the ERP was supposed to cover, the education resource planner was supposed to cover. So we covered stuff like how many library books has the kid read. Now, those are really interesting snippets because sometimes, like I used to be a very conscious guy on what's happening, what the data is showing. So we could see that some of the kids who scored really well in English were the ones who read more books. So those were the kind of very subtle relationships which you could find. So then after that, I also went on to do like I've been running my IT company since a long time, then went on to do a media platform. Like it was a food discovery platform called Jolly Food Fellow, and we amassed close to 1 billion views on our platform and worked with a lot of very different vendors across Gujarat, understood the problems of the food industry and tried to solve that. But since education was my true calling, I came back to it. I realized that I had found my ikigai, and which was in helping students find theirs. So that's exactly what we're doing at Eduberance. For students who do not know how to go forward, what methods to use to find what they want to do is something which we are trying to figure out and help students with that. Yes, Anuj. Yeah.
This is like to everyone out there. I've seen this journey super close. I've heard this about this journey, a lot more details about this. I'll try to get as much as interesting points that I already know of out in this podcast as well. So my first question would be to you is what, like, you have also run offline courses in the past. Can you talk a bit more about that? What were those courses and how did it look like?
So, in fact, one of the very interesting things which I started doing pretty early, I think 2014, was careers in digital marketing. So we created a course around digital marketing that was with a friend based in Kolkata. He runs a academy called 711 Academy. Also, he runs one of India's largest bulk email SMS now into AdWords providing. So we jointly created a course where so it was running in Kolkata, and we were also doing workshops across India and workshops for business people, workshops for people who wanted to understand what digital marketing was. Because I got a very rich understanding of digital marketing while doing it for now the university, but earlier it was a MBA college, and back then there were only two colleges which were doing online activities. So including Facebook ads and Facebook pages were not there at back then. We also had very few people who understood what SEO was. So we created a course around that, and but I think we were pretty early on that. So a lot of people did not know what they will do by understanding digital marketing in 2014. So we focused more on the business insights for people in the business who wanted to come into digital companies, and that is what we still do. We have a annual workshop in Goa where we invite folks to come over, join a 5-day rendezvous with trying and understanding all things about digital. So back, like, it was creating a lot of very different way of looking at digital marketing, not just the execution but also insights. That's what was the real highlight of that program, was that whether you should what you should do to get good output from your agency was one of the things which we wanted to do. And then we went on to do some offline training in digital marketing for including the government of Ministry of Ayush, the government of India, Ministry of Ayush. In fact, the team of Sandeep and me, like, and Bessie, we were able to create the hashtag which was used in more than 120 plus countries during the International Day of Yoga. It was called Ayush Zindagi Rahe Khush. So that hashtag, people did not know the relevance of hashtag then, but it became one of the most used hashtags for any ministry across the government of India. And yeah, I think training has been something which I've been doing over a long time. And I really enjoy trying to present stuff in a manner which somebody can understand, not trying to show what I know, but trying to share what I know so that you can understand. That's the essence of all online courses which we have, means physical training or online courses which we have done. Yeah.
And I can totally vouch for that approach because whenever we meet also, it's more the conversations are on the same ethics and not just like it's all about value creation rather than just giving out something which does may or may not create. Interesting. So you mentioned that you worked with government as well in helping them create digital marketing for various initiatives. How was it? How was it different from working with the conventional companies? Like, can you share a bit more about that journey of yours?
Yeah. So I think thankfully I was not involved in getting the contract and everything, but even that was very smooth. In fact, one of the very senior IS officers had in fact himself attended one of the sessions by my other partner Sandeep, and he was really impressed by the way the training was done. So I've learned a lot of things from Sandeep, and I think the officer also understood. I'll not name him, but he understood that there was some value in what he was doing. So he gave us a challenge of not just making people understand how to talk about the Ministry of Ayush and various initiatives. He also mentioned to us that you'll also have to motivate people, because one of the perception which was there was that it is traditional medicine and it is competing with modern medicine. So he gave us some very good insight. So during our training, I think government, a lot of people feel like there's a very different methodology, there's a different mindset. Of course, there is, because they may venture into things which is good for the society and which may not directly result in some tangible output. However, there was a lot of tangible output. The Ministry of Ayush has done phenomenal work in improving the quality of health for Indians and across the world. Yoga, International Day of Yoga is one aspect. There are so many other events which are happening, sensitization to the public. So governments actually works, just one edge they have over any private initiative is they can continue to do the good work, and it's not very tightly linked to a tangible output. So the ROI can be something like the public health. So in fact, one of the KPIs which we were also supposed to talk about and get into the mindset of people was how do we reduce the infant mortality? How do we talk about the quality of life? So lifespan is something which is still used as a metric worldwide to measure the developed countries and the developing ones. So the better the lifespan of any country, the more developed they are considered.
Yep.
And even the cost of healthcare, that needs to come down significantly for people to access. So government, for us, it was a fantastic experience. We like a lot of us do not understand that the way the government works, there are some fantastic people who have cleared some very difficult processes, exams. The best of the minds are actually running the show for us, because the kind of population we have and the kind of chaos we have, coming out with even a small output in that is something which is tremendous work being done by the government. Not just this one, but throughout. I think governments also need to, and the good part is governments also have realized that they need to get training. They need to understand new technologies, new things, and that's something which we felt very strongly about, and thankfully we were able to contribute in that as well. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So coming to something that we plan to talk about, we would want our audience to get more understanding on. How did you go about finalizing your first workshop or a first course topic? Like, what was the journey to reach there? And then how did you go about, like, did the target audience come first and then did the course come, or did course come first? What was the chicken and egg situation over here?
So I'll talk about the course which we have done in Eduberance. It is
Hmm.
basically a course which the target audience definitely came first. So
Okay.
because here we want to service, we want to assist the students,
Hmm.
because we identified that career selection is a problem. So how do we talk about, like, for example, I may have some experience which can be shared with students individually. That's what generally the good career counselors do. They spend, let's say, 3 to 4 hours over some period of time by giving them some exercises to do. But the challenge with that model is, A, it is very, very costly, because if I'm spending, let's say, 3 hours, 4 hours with a kid, I also want return for that time which I'm spending with that kid. And B, it is very, very unscalable. Like, so you can reach an X, you can do the calculation. If I spend, let's say, a half an hour working with somebody, I also need to do 10-15 minutes of some research about that kid. So maybe an hour a day. So how many students can I reach in my lifetime? So we wanted to create a course which would be very simple to understand for the group, which is like 7 to 12. And we selected the Hindi speaking belt first of all. So the language we had to modify, and like, I'm probably, my first language is now English. And I was also struggling with a lot of like changing the words to Hindi, because Generally you don't speak that language in a day-to-day basis once you come into the corporate life.
I agree.
So it was like, and I was using some very difficult words like pushtikaran and all that. So I got suggestions from the first batch who actually saw it, was that some of the words were really difficult to understand. So I had to kind of go back to them and mellow them down. So the TG came first, and what we wanted to do was try and talk about some methods in which people can, the students, grade 7 to 12, can actually understand what careers are and do some exercises which are given to them so that they can know themselves better. So that created the crux of what we wanted to do in the first course. Of course, it was we took a really long time to kind of figure that out, because we had to do a research on the various topics which needs to be covered. We try and understood from various counselors as to what they were doing during their sessions. So it was kind of a very concentrated effort. We, in spite of trying to bring it as much down as possible, we could manage to bring it down to a day's work. So it was like there's around an 8-hour course which you have right now on this in Hindi. So very specific to the Hindi belt. And later going forward, we want to do it in multiple languages, including English as well. Yeah.
So even I would want to know what is the meaning of Pushtikaran.
So again, I think I'll have to refer that back, because in the context, it means nourishing.
Okay.
But if you take it out of context, it can also mean filling your mind with something which is like forced on you. So
Okay.
Pushtikaran basically means validating or nourishing. Yeah.
Okay. So, Neeraj bhai, do you think, like, why, what, how, kind of the framework that people generally deploy for larger businesses or even startups, like conventionally now, that is also required for a course business? Do you think that is something that is required? And if it is, how do people approach that?
See, one way of thinking about doing a business in this, coming to right to the topic which we are discussing,
Hmm.
is to figure out what niches are doing well, which is something people are looking forward to, and building something around that. But I think if you want to build a business and not a one-time kind of a hobby or experiment, then this is not the right approach. I think if you are looking to build a business in online courses or courses, what I would recommend is to first understand yourself as to what you are passionate about, and what is something which you can keep talking about and keep learning yourself, because it's not that you learn it one time and then you can create as many courses, or you are done. So if you are passionate about something and you enjoy the process of learning, researching, knowing what's happening in that field, it's like a journalist's work. You have to know every day what's happening. So then only you can talk in front of a lot of people, the masses, that what is actually happening, and you can add value. Because if you think of, let's say, trends, like for example, there are a lot of trends going on, right? So if you see the TikTok videos, you may get a one day kind of a limelight. But if you're doing a business, how does that convert? So in my previous venture, we understood that we were able to understand what virality actually is, and the proof of that is we did 32 videos which did more than 10 million views back in 2016-17.
That's like a very big achievement then. Like if people may not realize it today, but then back then the technology was too different. The adoption, there was no geo wave
Yeah,
then. Yeah.
yeah. In 2017, getting a million views was considered to be like out of this world, and we were able to get 32 videos with 10 million views. In total, the platform, as I said, garnered close to a billion views. So what we understood is that there is something which you need to know well. So in our case, my co-founder, he knew food really well, and he knew what people would like to consume with their eyes. So similarly, from that learning, if I talk about courses today, if you are understanding something in depth, and one more thing is very essential in courses I mentioned, and you have the ability to explain that in very simple terms which your target group can understand. Now imagine a professor of economics talking to a bunch of kids thinking that he's in a room full of economists. it would not work. The terminologies which he would use would be very different. Like imagine sitting in a meeting with the Ministry of Finance and doing a discussion there. Most of the stuff we would not even be able to fathom. What's the discussion about? Uh, like for example, the points system. Like I don't even know what they call it. Some basis points have been increased by 0.25. Now, what does that mean? So for a student, when you're creating a course, you will have to work on the fundamentals. You'll have to tell them that a basis point is this, the impact of this, how is it calculated, what is the macro situation, and what are the methodologies to come to that, so that the understanding is built, and then you talk about those numbers and stats. So I think that is very, very essential when you're trying to build a business. So people come to you and trust you and even pay you when they understand that it's not a one-time thing that's going to happen with them. Like most of the content creators who create business are not one video people. Most people have to like take this very seriously. That if you are thinking that you will create 1 or 2 videos and make money, the first 5, 10 videos may be just used to create trust. The trust that you are an expert in that subject. The first 10 videos may not even like get you some output in terms of ROI. It's so you have to have a mindset where maybe the 11th video will cater to all the previous 10 videos. But the mindset has to be that you establish trust, you keep talking about the subject with the expertise and with the simplicity that the listeners or the audience wants. In courses also that's true, like whether it's online or offline. And once, or even in content, and once the people start trusting you that, okay, for example, uh, we try and create a trust factor that we understand the scope of careers pretty well. That's what we are currently doing. So once our students and parents start understanding that, okay, Eduberance is a platform where they genuinely talk about careers, they do their research, they are here to stay. They may start recommending themselves, their students, their friends, and say, Ki, go here frequently, and then the business will start. So as I say, in most of the content creation is like a media business. It's an education business as well, but it's a combination of the education business and the media business. So I'll give you a very layered kind of thing which happens in media business. In media business, how do you make business? So first comes the content, right? And you can use it even for education business or even for any content business. The content has to come first. Next comes circulation. So you may have content, the best of the content, but let's say not too many people are looking at it. It's not circulated well. So it is very, very essential to have that circulation piece going around. And the next piece after circulation is reputation. So when you do circulation at a frequency, at a regularity with some in-depth understanding, that's when your reputation starts building. And only after reputation, you start getting revenue. You don't get revenue for circulation. Even the micro influencers, they don't get revenue if they have done 1 or 2 circulation which has gone well without a reputation. They have to build some sort of reputation, some sort of recall value, and then the revenue keeps flowing in. And the better you do your reputation part, the more the circulation you have, and the higher quality of content which you can continually churn. It may be comedy. So even if you are a comic with great timing, you have to come out with your scripts, right? You just can't say the joke again and again, the same joke, and get public to kind of applaud you. It gets boring. So for every content, whether it's any genre, you have to kind of get into that mindset of being passionate about it, like we are about careers. And and Hanuj is about content. So I think once you're passionate about stuff, you can keep doing this process, and that's how to build a business out of it. Yes.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, what you're trying to say is, say, why, what, and how is equally important for any sort of a business setup, be it small, be it large, be it a stage one or be it stage 10, and at any given point that is super necessary, right? So how do you, so you mentioned the process of how do you start with Eduberance previously as well, and how what is your motivation behind that? And but how did you go about creating the content? Like how did you go about building the trust yourself? Like you mentioned, the trust building is important. So what are the few, like if in case you point quick pointers, like what are the three main things a person can do to build that trust?
Yeah, so I think if you look at, so I'll break down the trust into two separate parts. One is the trust for physical kind of institutes or physical kind of course providers, and the other is the digital side.
Hmm.
So in the physical side, obviously the trust comes from the infrastructure.
Hmm.
So the larger the institute size, the better the classrooms, the equipment, the lawns.
Hmm.
For institutes which have all these, the trust comes up. Even if you don't have students, the trust comes up. Then you have, of course, the faculty, which is very important if you are in the education business, or the course, who is doing the course or who is doing the content when it comes to content providing. After that, also comes the research which goes behind the R&D for every institute now, whether you are following a curriculum which is different, the pedagogy, how it is. So that is something which helps you build trust, and then the word of mouth starts. The delivery is essential, the experience is essential. But what do you do to build the trust in the first set of people? Like the rest of it is pretty easy. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So when we were doing the MBA school, the marketing for it, uh, I was fortunate to be a part of a team which was led by a genius called Mr. Randeep Das. He was the marketing head for United World School of Business. Now, how do you market a business school without having a placement? The marketing school back then used to sell based on only one thing, that was placement.
Hmm.
So
And
what
even today, I
Ranadeep
think.
came out, even today, so
Yeah.
what Ranadeep came out with, he turned this place where we were not having a placement record into one of our key strengths. So what he did, he said, we are the first ones to introduce something called a multi-layer placement. Now, multi-layer placement was a concept where you get placed at three different levels. The one is at, if you want to, for example, our schools were in Kolkata, Mumbai. So he said, and in Ahmedabad. So he said, you will get placed if you want in Kolkata, Mumbai, and Ahmedabad. The next layer of that is India wide. So we have tie-ups with companies, and we had to do actually the tie-ups. We had to work with companies beforehand, even before starting the marketing, that okay, this is the courses. Do you want something else to come in? So if we train our kids with this is the pedagogy we have, this is the kind of thing we want to do. Would you be interested to take? So some of them actually signed up for it, and plus we had our own contacts as well. So those were used in the national level. And one more interesting thing we did, we hired somebody called Singh Yum Shuk. He was the head of LG,
And what is
retail
L
head for LG,
LGB?
uh, LG Electronics.
Okay.
So LG Electronics is a huge company,
Yeah, yeah.
and he came on board as a placement head, and with his inclusion in the team, we started talking about the last layer, which was the international layer. So now, instead of saying we don't have placements, we started saying we have multi-layer placements, where you have uh, regional level, you have India level, and even the international level, which a few B schools which are doing business for 10 years were able to talk about. So trust can also be built through marketing, provided you do your homework well. So
Hmm.
I think a lot of people fail. For example, when you are doing anything to do with payments, you have to have your SSL in place. You have to have an HTTPS. Preferably, you should also have whatever certifications are required, right? If it is a banking institution, you have to get the requisite certification and display them front. So if you go to the Paytm app, on right on front, you will see a trusted certificate, right? So those are the kind of things which builds trust. In case of education or in case of content, views do matter. So if you need, you can actually put some marketing dollars to get your first, I would say 10K views or 5K views, because it's like a line. People like to stand in a line and then ask what is the line for. So if you show that there is a line of people who have already experienced it, if you can do some extra work and get some testimonials going in, that is how you build trust even before you actually do your like significant number of sales first. Online business, as I said, very similar to this, just that some of the symbols are really different. HTTPS is one of them, certification upfront is another, testimonials is another. And also, if you can get featured, like for example, thankful to Hanuj for featuring me here. So because viewers here will have a better trust, right? So that is the way you use somebody who people already trust, be in their network, tell them to talk about you. Like webinars are a great way. You can also use videos where you have joint videos with others. So these are the kind of things which can help you build trust. Also, working with larger brands first and then working with smaller brands automatically builds the trust in the smaller brands. Okay, they've worked with, for example, like let's say we worked with an AIML company which is doing courses. So Pixel dot AI, and they were in this business for last 10 years. So the first course we did was with them. So automatically the next courses became simple for us, because if somebody who's doing in business for 10 years has trusted Eduberance as a platform to work with, the others who may not be in business for such a long time and want to come into online education and the courses around careers, they are much more happy that they already know there is a bigger brand working with them already.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. So to sum it up again, basically there are multiple ways to build trust, but all of that starts with first one, where what does your audience look for?
Mm.
Creating enough value alongside while creating trust. By just creating trust won't make any difference, but trust along with value would help you grow. Am I making it right? Am I getting it right?
So I think value is like hygiene. You have to, if your courses, that is the most essential part. But I think even before somebody signs up, another very interesting way to build trust is to give samples.
Mm.
So you have to expose the audience to some sample courses, free courses. So you tell them to sign up and you'll get a couple of courses for free, or maybe a couple of sessions for free. That is something you'll have to build in your tech. We are still doing that, not yet done. But once we do that, we will be able to expose our students to some free courses inside the paid course. So they have a taste of what is the tonality, what is the visuals, what is the depth of research we have done. So that also helps build trust. And of course, as I said, marketing is very, very essential, like having good
Mm.
quality of graphics. Even the podcast we are doing, the sound quality has to be good, the video quality has to be good, graphics have to be good. So that is something which builds trust, because in a world where content can now be created as easily as you think, so what differentiates you is the preparation, the in-depth kind of thing, the detailing. So they say the devil lies in the details. So the more details you get into, the more trust you can establish.
Okay. So we went through journey of how to get started with creating a course, why, what, how, and then creating trust and now creating value. What are the some metrics, like before even metrics, let's talk about what are the aha moments that one person can try to look for, and would be a good good stamp of some progress or some validation from the customer. What are those aha moments in your business or in general as a course business?
So if we talk about our business, Eduberance for that matter, the aha moment is when a student actually gives you a feedback and says, "Okay, this is something I did not know. Thank you for sharing this." Or you can also see from, so before we actually do the online, we have also got to do some trial runs with offline people, try and see the reactions. Because if we assume that everything can be done online, that comes with practice. And for us, it is like something, the online courses are not something which is prevalent for career selection. So this is something which is very, very new. And fundamentally, I think we are bringing a very fresh innovation into this field. So to do that, we also wanted to see the audience reaction. Now, I cannot say somebody taking a video course to turn their video on so that I can see the reaction. So what we did was we created some videos, went to some schools where we got kids to see them and were able to see what they were reacting and how they were reacting without telling them that we were actually watching them. So those are some of the kind of things. So the aha moments come when you feel okay, you can look into the eye of some student and you can understand that okay, it is making sense to them. Or another very good visual for us is when somebody actually takes a pen, paper, and notes down something. So so in our case, with technology, we can find out where the pauses are happening, where the rewinds are happening. So once you know that these are the pointers where students are more interested or maybe they are watching it again, can be for two reasons. One is it's an aha moment. One is you went too fast or it was something which they could not understand.
Yeah.
But when you replay it and when you see it yourself, you can easily understand whether it makes sense to them or whether it was like a goof up or something. So I think another aha moment comes when you it does not come naturally. You have to sometimes push for the aha moment. So when we sent out to our students asking for testimonials, if somebody actually writes something good and mentions a few things which you had not imagined them to. Like for example, we did a course on entrepreneurship for kids. So like this was for 9 years to 19 years old, and we had a fantastic instructor in that, Mr. Sachin Karnik. So when we went to the parents and we sent out emails asking them for testimonials. So one of the parents was kind enough to share a testimonial and also asked the kid to share a testimonial. And she was like, our day-to-day conversation is now around some terms like moat and valuation on everything. So it is kind of very refreshing for us to have this conversation with our young girl. So I think those are the kind of things which brings us aha moments, that somebody is actually using that in a day-to-day terminology and understood something which which students are using in their life. So that is something. So for example, for content creators, when you see somebody imitate you, when Bhuvan Bam gets imitated, or when these content creators start somebody imitating them, that is also a aha moment for them, because I think that should be an aha moment. When somebody is copying your style or copying your tone or even your bloopers, I think that's something which can be called an aha moment.
Makes sense. So, just a final question, then we can wrap this up as well. What are the key metrics that you think a person should track if they're into an online course business? What are the key top three metrics that everyone should be concerned about?
So in any online business, I think one metric which a lot of people call vanity metrics, but I don't consider that vanity metrics in online business, especially if you are in the content business. That is the reach, the metric of reach, because that is like the extreme top of the funnel, right? So if you are measuring your reach month on month, even week on week initially, then you get to know whether your reach is increasing or whether it's not increasing. And if you can figure out ways to find out whether it's being triggered by some action you are taking or is it organically growing. So I think reach at the top of the funnel is something which we definitely want to track. Uh, After that, I think one of the key metrics for us and for anybody in the content business is the time consumed. Like, so the average session duration in terms of website, or the number of minutes or hours viewed in terms of content. That is something which, so for example, if we have an 8-hour course and let's say we have thousands of visitors who are taking the course, so we have to get a very good metric in terms of the hours consumed, right?
I agree.
So that is something which is very, very essential for us. And
Okay.
of course, since we are in business, the metric which is very important is what is the total, like, acquisition and cost per acquisition, right? What is the total revenue you are generating and what is the cost? So these are basically two very interlinked kind of metrics. But top of the funnel, then I would look at the engagement, which is the hours spent. I would look at the total revenue which we have generated and the cost for getting one acquisition, one customer or one student on the platform. These are the top 4 metrics for me, which I would like to know even when I'm sleeping. Yeah.
Nice. So I think this pretty much helps Neeraj bhai. I think the audience would have got a lot of value. We did walk them really through the journey of creating a online course business. What are the basics? What are the basics that you should get right before even getting started with that thing? The final question would be one advice that you would give to the budding knowledge entrepreneurs out there, and one book that you would recommend everyone to read.
So my all-time favorite book actually is Rich Dad Poor Dad. So it's by Robert T. Kiyosaki. Again, it's a book which is very simple to and easy to understand. The very complex things which he talked about in this book have been explained really simply, with some very clever like comparisons being made between his friend's father and his own father, the way of thinking of two different fathers, and how it's actually about mindset. Money is not just an outcome of where you start from, but money is also, or business is an outcome of what mindset you carry. And this book is a very good example of how to build that mindset, how to think about uh, plenty and how to think about abundance when you actually don't even have anything. So that book is something which is like I would always recommend everybody, whether it's somebody who wants to do business or does not want to do business, to just for building your own mindset, you should read this book. And my suggestion to people who are getting into the content business or getting into the education business, of course, education, uh, I would not really want to call it a business. So education, you should get into it only if you are driven by some mission or passion. There are multiple other businesses where you can make much faster money and without less hassles, without so much of hassle which you have in education, because you have to work extra hard to build that reputation and trust in, because it's a long term impact for any course, whether it's a short course or a long course. Your impact is always long term. You should be aiming for long term. But let's say all that is sorted out and you are really interested in getting into the content creation business or the education business. So I would say choose your genre or choose your niche based on your own self rather than what's going on in the industry. I think I already caught on that, but it's a good suggestion that I reiterate it. And because it becomes the essence, so you can go on and you can go on and try and diversify, and you can get into multiple things or do some experiments. That's absolutely okay. But after knowing your audience, but you have to start with a thesis as to what you know and what you can provide to the audience. You just cannot come and copy somebody or somebody's idea and start talking about it as if it's going to work, because it really does. So what does work is what you know and how you're presenting what you know. The topic can be anything. So don't get into this mindset. It's not like ranking, creating SEO for your client. You understand what's working and write a blog on that, and the blog starts working. Even that business would not work well if the client who's running that business is not interested in that business.
True.
Right? So for your case, when you are making the business of coming into the content game, coming into the education business, so you should be very well prepared about what you know. You may not be the best in that industry or in that topic or genre, but what you know, you should be very confident on, and try and simply explain it to. So whatever it is, like today, a Khan sir is popular, even a physics wala is popular, or there are so many content creators who are really popular. It's not because they have selected a brilliant topic which nobody else has, or if they talk in a way which nobody else can. It's because it's a combination of what they feel passionate about, what they are good at explaining in their own mannerisms. These are all original people. These are not somebody who's copying somebody. And originality is sometimes undermined, but it's completely going to give you a return. Maybe you'll have to be patient for a little longer, because you don't start with a benchmark that okay, every time Bhuvan Bam puts a video, it's like 10 million views. He took a long time to reach there.
True.
In fact, our first 16 videos on the platform where we had 1 billion views, in total did not have 10,000 views. So it takes time to build that trust. So I think if you are just very confident about what you know and what you want to share with the world and are patient, this will work for you.
I think just to add on that same line, our ancestors tell, right? So if something is going slow, it means it's going to go for a longer period. If something is
Right.
growing super fast, it means it's going to die more faster. So everything has its own course of time to hit the point that you want it to be, but just having patience in the process would make sense. And probably courses are also a product, right? It's not service. Like service gives you money from day one. Like you give someone, you make a pani puri plate, you can always charge some sort of labor to do that, or you fix a screw, you can charge. So all of these are services. But creating that screw and making it reach to that carpenter is a product. So that always
Yeah.
takes time. That's a journey that one has to go through, right? Yeah. So thanks a lot, Neeraj bhai, for sharing all your nuggets and helping us understand how can one get started in the course business. Uh, Again, thanks a lot for joining us. Do check us out. Do check out Miho. Do check out Eduberance. Do share your feedback. Do share feedback in the comments. And if you did like, you can also connect with Neeraj bhai on LinkedIn, on Twitter, wherever you are. I'll put the links in the description. Feel free to get in touch and feel free to share your feedback.
Thanks, Anuj, for the invite. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.